Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for the overwhelming response to the Salesforce admin interview question and answer series. And thank you very much for all your motivating comments and messages. I have also received so many messages on different social media channels requesting development interview questions. So here I am with a brand new Salesforce development interview question and answer series. And today we will be starting with the part 1 video where I will be discussing Apex. Basically, Apex is a big topic, hence I have divided it into multiple logical videos so you don't feel it's a lengthy topic. So stay tuned for the rest of the video series. And for now, let's get started. So today's topic, as I said, is Apex. And the very first question we will be discussing is what is an Apex, right? So Apex is a programming language developed by Salesforce. It is Salesforce proprietary programming language, okay, and can be used only on Salesforce program. It means to say that it is their own programming language, right? And it can be run only on Salesforce platform. Unlike Java or C Sharp, right, where we can develop some application and host on any of the servers, right? Whatever we want to, we can host anyway. But for Salesforce, you have to use Salesforce platform only to run Salesforce programming language. Okay. Apex is a strongly typed object-oriented programming language that allows developer to execute code on Salesforce platform. So these are the similar features like what we have for any programming language like C Sharp and Java, but this programming language has to be run only on Salesforce platform. It also allows developer to write code to call APIs. So we can write the code and we can call the APIs. APIs, if you're not aware, it's known as application programming interface. Okay. And Apex syntax looks like Java or C Sharp and acts like a database stored procedure. Not sure if you have worked on stored procedures in Oracle or MySQL or SQL Server. So we have stored procedures in those databases. But as a programming language, it is very much similar to the Java or C Sharp, right? If you know Java and C Sharp, it will take very less time for you to learn Apex. Okay, just FYI, Apex, not Lightning or LWC. Okay, Lightning and LWC are a little bit different. It might have a learning curve, but if you just want to learn Apex, then it's really easy for a Java or C Sharp .NET developer to learn Apex. It also enables developers to add business logic, okay, to most of the system events, including a button click, right? We can write a logic. Basically, every programming language, we write logic, right? And it will be triggered on some event. So in this case, we are telling that it can be triggered from a button click. Let's say, for example, I clicked on a save button and then the logic will trigger and then, run and do whatever we have written for it to do, right? Related record updates, and then we can call it from the Visualforce pages as well. Apex code can be initiated by a web service request and from the triggers on objects, right? So we can write Apex code to do multiple things. Okay, these are the few things. The second question is, when should we use Apex, right? When we should use Apex. So we use Apex if you want to create web services, right? And if you want to create email services, if you want to perform complex validation over multiple objects, right? So if you want to write a complex business logic, then we can use Apex as well. And when we want to create a complex business processes that are not supported by the workflows, like anything we are not able to do using config, then we should always go for Apex, right? And when we want to create custom transactional logic I will explain you in a moment, but it is again some advanced logic that occurs over the entire transaction, not just with a single record or object. Okay, so attach custom logic to another operations such as saving a record, right? If I click on a button, then I am saving a record, right? So that it occurs whenever the operation is executed, regardless of whether it is originated in the user interface, whether I'm calling that save button from user interface or from a Visualforce page or a SOAP API, right? I can write a logic and I can call it from anywhere if I want to use it. Okay. So third question is, how does Apex works? Okay. So all Apex run entirely on demand on the Lightning platform, right? So it is hosted on the Salesforce Lightning platform, right? Developers write and save Apex code to the platform, and end users trigger the execution of the Apex code via the user interface. So basically what happens, we write a code, we compile and we'll save it into a Lightning platform, and then user uses that application. He opens the user interface and he try to click any button. That might be an example as save button, and as soon as the save button is clicked, the logic will be triggered. Okay, so Apex is compiled, stored, and run entirely on Lightning platform. So this is how it works, right? So developer write the codes, and it compiles, Apex compiler. We have Apex compilers in the Lightning platform itself, right? If the compilation is successful, then it is compiled code will be stored, right? And if it is not, it will throw the compiler errors. And then, when the users start using it, it requests and goes into the cloud and check for the, application server, and then gets the data from the data storage, right? And come back again to the Apex runtime and then show the result to the end user. This is how it works. The next question, question number 4 is, what is a developer console? Okay. So developer console is an integrated development environment. You should call it as IDE, integrated development environment, right? So it is a collection of tools we can use to create, debug, and test applications in Salesforce org. Basically, it is something, where we write the code in Salesforce. Okay. You can write the code directly in Salesforce itself without using any external IDE. So if you don't have your external IDE set up, then you can write the code directly into the developer console. Okay. So this is how IDE looks. I can click on file, open classes, and I can create a new class. And this is the class which have been written. And if I want to, or execute a ad hoc code, right? I want to test something and write few line of code. I can do so. I can write the code in, this is called as anonymous window, and you can execute the code, right? So this is how developer console looks like. So we can do more things as well. You just go ahead and explore it. We can, write, this is a query editor. We can write the SOQL queries, and then you can execute. You get the result over here as well. Okay. Likewise, we have many things. So we can check the logs, test. We can test it, and checkpoints, view state, progress, and problems, right? So many things we can go ahead. Here also we have few more things. You can go ahead and explore and see what all we can do with the developer console. Okay. The next question number 5 is, what are the tasks supported by developer console? Okay. So with developer console, as I said, we can write the code, we can compile the code, we can debug, we can test, we can check the performance, we can write the SOQL queries. Just now I have mentioned, and we can, whenever we write the code, it will be in the color coding and autocomplete format. And next question is, what are the other IDEs or code editors you use as a Salesforce developer? So that could be another question. Like, when the interviewer asks you, what is developer console, you might have said, okay, developer console is somewhere we write the code, but interviewer might ask, right? Like, what are the other IDEs you might have used? Okay. So basically this type of questions, this just interviewer wants to check whether you have really worked or not, right? So the other IDE is which is very highly used right now, is Visual Studio Code, right? And even Salesforce is supporting this. And Eclipse Force.com IDE. This is something which we used to use in the past, but I don't think a lot of people are using right now, because maybe there are a few old developers, they still want to continue with Eclipse Force.com IDE. They will still continue, but most of them are, switching to Visual Studio Code. And there are those, by the way, these two are free IDEs. You can download and configure and start coding it. There is no need to pay anything for this, but we also have paid versions, and which will have little bit more advanced features, which you may not require at all, right? But it is good to have if you want to have it. So for that, we have Welkin Suite, which is a paid one. You can download the free version of this paid as well, and just explore what are the other options you have apart from Visual Studio Code and eclipseforce.com IDE. Okay. And we also have another eliminated cloud IntelliJ idea, which is also a paid, right? So try to explore the free versions of these two things. You will get an idea. Okay. Don't stick to one thing. Try to, you should try to change the studio so that, yeah, you don't feel bored. So the next question is, what are the different data types we have in Salesforce? Okay, this is an important question as well. So we have primitive data type, we have sObjects data type, we have collections, and we have enum. So these are the broad categories. Okay, we have again more in primitive, we have more in sObjects and collections as well. Okay, I'll show it in, I'll explain it in detail, but these are the broad categories. Next question, question number 8 is, what are primitive data types? So the following are the primitive data types. Integers falls under primitive data types. Double falls under primitive data type. Long, date, date time, string, ID, and Boolean. Okay, so these are the primitive data types. So you might be asking, this is very simple, then why have I added it into a interview question series? Because even though this looks very simple, but this is really important. Okay, maybe in future classes I explain you, right, future method, right? I will explain that, okay, feature method you can pass only parameter as primitive data type. You cannot pass sObject data type, right? So that time it might be a little bit difficult for you to understand if you have not already gone through in detail what is primitive and what is sObject, right? So whatever I have written in this, or whatever I'm explaining in this series, everything is important, right? Even though you feel like, for example, in future videos you will be getting some advanced questions, right? But that advanced question cannot be explained by itself. Okay, it needs some background, right? So these are the questions, these are the few questions I have covered, to give you some strong basic knowledge, and then we'll go to the complex ones. So what are collections in Salesforce? This is also a really important question. Okay, so the collections in Salesforce are list, sets, and maps. So these are the three collections we have in Salesforce. What is an sObject? So this is another data type. So sObject refers to an object that can be stored in a Salesforce database. Okay, sObject means Salesforce object. So in Salesforce we don't call it as tables. Instead of table we call it as objects. Okay, so don't get confused. In Salesforce, object means a table, database table. If you're coming from a different programming background, or if you're coming from some other technology, then object in Salesforce is nothing but a table. Okay, example, account is an object, lead is an object, opportunities is an object, invoice is an object. By the way, whichever is having _ C are custom objects, means the objects which we have created, right? And payroll _ C is the payroll object which we have created. Basically all these are sObjects. Okay, Salesforce objects. So how can we declare the object? Like account A, right? Account is an sObject and A is the variable of an account, right? For example, invoice _ C inv. Invoice _ C is an sObject, and inv is the variable we have declared for it, right? So here A is an accounts sObject variable, and inv is an invoice _ C sObject variable. Okay, let's go to the next question. Question number 11: how to access sObject fields? Now we have seen how we can declare the sObjects. Let's see how to access the fields of each sObjects. As I said, right, sObject is a table, right? Table will have fields. So in the code, in Apex code, how do we access those sObjects fields? Okay, so sObject fields can be accessed or changed with a simple dot notation, right? So example, we can declare account A is equals to new account. So we have instantiated an account variable A, and then as soon as I click A dot, then I can access their all fields, right? So A dot name is equals to Acme, or I can write anything XYZ, right? What are the DML operations in Apex? So update, insert, delete are the DML operations, right? So we can Example, account A is equals to new account, right? We can write some code, means I can write a dot name or a dot something else, a dot billing address, a dot shipping address, a dot whatnot, right? And then finally, either I can use insert or update, right? I have just given you an example of update, but I can use insert or update as well. Okay, we can delete as well. There is a different way to delete. We have to first get the record and then delete it. Okay. So question number 13, what is a single versus bulk DML operation? This is really very important. Okay. So updating one record at a time is single DML operation, whereas updating multiple records using list. See, list is what I have already explained you, right? List is, which we have already seen that, this is one of the type of data types, like collections data type, right? So I'll repeat again, updating one record at a time is single DML operation, whereas updating multiple records using list of sObject is bulk DML operation. So just note it down. A very important thing is you have to always do bulk DML operation. Okay, you should never go for a single DML operation. Okay. So example of single DML operation. Okay, I have taken account A is equals to new account, and a dot name is equals to I have assigned Acme, and then I'm inserting Acme, right? And next I'm writing one more time account A is equals to new account, or maybe I'm writing it on a for loop, whatnot. Okay. So account A is equals to new account, a dot name is equals to Google, and then inserting A. So at a time, I'm trying to just insert one record, right? Okay, if you are having one record, that's fine, but you should always write a code which should handle bulk updates, okay, or bulk inserts. Okay, always you should try to write the bulk DML operations. So example of bulk DML operation, like account A is equals to new account, right? I have declared list of account. I have now see one thing extra I'm declaring over here is list. Okay, list was not there in the previous single DML. So here I'm taking a list of account. A list is equals to new list account. So this is how we declare the list. Okay. So a dot name is equals to Acme, and then I'm adding a list dot add a. So I'm creating an Acme, and then I'm adding this Acme into this list. Okay. Now I create a second record, a dot name is equals to Google, and I add that list, that Google, into the list a list. Okay. Now what is happening? Now my A contains two records. One is Acme, another is Google. Okay. Now together I will just insert a list. So this is nothing but the bulk DML operation. So this is how we insert multiple records. This is just the example of 2 records, but whether it is 10 records, 15 records, 20 records, or 100 records, you have to insert using the bulk DML operation. Okay. What if you do like this one? We have some concept called governor limits. Okay. First of all, this is not a good practice. Second, it will take a lot of time for you to code, right? Like this one. And people feel like you are just a developer who don't know how to write the code, especially Salesforce code, right? And third thing, you will hit the governor limits. Governor limits, we'll go in detail in our future classes, but this is the best practice. You should always write the code in a bulk DML format. Okay. So next, go to the 14th question. So which DML is recommended, single or bulk? I have already explained you, right? So performing bulk DML operation is the recommended way because it helps avoid hitting the governor limits. Okay. So next question is what is the difference between the DML statement versus database class method, right? This is again very important question. Even though interviewer may or may not ask what is the database class method, but when they will play with you in scenario based questions for batch apex, right, or something complex, then you should definitely know the basics, know the basic concepts, so that you can respond to any of the scenario based questions, right? So this is database.class method is really important in that sense. Okay, I'll tell you why this is important. I'll try to explain some now, as well as I'll refer back again when I'm explaining you the batch apex and all those things. Okay, So this is really important again. So we can do two types. We can do DML in two ways. Like one is I have just shown you, right? Like insert, update, and delete. And another way is using the database.class methods. Let's see what it is. Okay. Apex offers two ways to perform DML operations. The first way is using DML statement, and the second is using the database class method. Okay, these are the two ways we can use the insert update in Salesforce. So DML statements are more straightforward to use and result in failure of all the records in case one record fails. Okay, if you go back to my previous example where I have entered, or I'm trying to insert Acme and Google. So what will happen if I write insert statement? If one record fails, then all the records will be failed for that transaction. Okay, whereas with database methods, we can specify whether or not to allow for partial record processing if errors are encountered. Many times we will fall into a scenario wherein if partial records are failed, if few records are failed, we should still continue to insert the records which are passed, right? In those scenario, DML statements will not work, right? Because DML statements will all fail. If I'm inserting 100 records, if one record is thrown an error, then it will fail all the 100 records, right? But if I use database class there, then what will happen? 99 records will get inserted and only one record fail. Okay, we can take care of that one record later on, right? So think about the real-time scenario, right? So if you have thousands of records, right, and you don't want all the records to be failed just because of one record error, so at that time we can use database class method. Okay, and even database class method is flexible. We can tell him whether to process all the records, or fail if any record is failed. Okay, or for example, we can tell the database class method that whether it should process partial records or it should process all or fail all. Okay, so we can do so by passing an additional second Boolean parameter. Okay, we'll see in a moment how we pass that. Okay, so example of DML statement is account A is equals to new account, right? A.name is equals to Acme. Insert A. Good. Again, DML statement account A is equals to new account. A.name is equals to Acme. Insert A. Okay, this is repeated. That's fine. So database class, how we'll do for database class? We'll write list of A list is equals to new list of account. So basically, I'm declaring a list, and then in a list, this is also one way to insert a record or add a record into the list. Okay, so first I'm adding Acme 1, and then I'm adding Acme 2. So my list contains two records now, Acme 1 and Acme 2. So I will use database.save results SR. This is the syntax for that. Okay, database.insert and then a list comma this Boolean variable false. Okay, so here false allows partial insert if there is an error. If I write false, then if one record fails, then second record will be automatically inserted. If I write true here, then if one fails, everything fails. So this is how database.insert or database class methods work. Okay, very important. Okay, you go through this, try to go through the documentation of database class methods, or you try to do some sample programs using this false and true, and try to throw an error. Try to throw an error and see one record is passed and another record is failed, or inserted or not inserted. How to do it? How to make sure that you are one record fails? Try to not add a mandatory field for that record. Okay, let's say for example name is mandatory. Just don't add anything in the name. So automatically it will throw an error. Means it will fail. But for the second one, just write the name, which is a mandatory field. Then it will insert. So if you give false, the Acme 1 will be one will not be inserted, and Acme 2 will be inserted. Okay, because you are missing some, not just name but any other mandatory field. Find out from the account object and don't pass that mandatory field, then it will fail because of that validation error. And second one, give all the mandatory fields, then it will pass. So you can test it how it works, right? Test once with the true and once with the false, so you will understand completely. Normally these developers don't use this very frequently unless and until they have a requirement, but this is really important concept. Okay, so with this we will finish Apex here. We will continue Apex in the second video as well. So for more detailed documentation, just go through this help.salesforce.com as well as trailheads. I have used these two sources to give you the latest information of all the videos I'm preparing. Thank you so much.